Welcome to IReb Resistance Radio, where we discuss the resistance work going on in Minnesota's 2nd Congressional District. IReb is an indivisible group formed after the 2016 election in opposition to an executive that we feared was going to do grave damage to our country. As our fears have been proven out, so has our membership grown. We attract people from across the political spectrum, but make no mistake, we are united as a progressive force in Minnesota's politics. Join us on our Facebook page, search for The Indivisible Resistance of Eagan and Burnsville. All right. Hello. Welcome to IReb Resistance Radio. We've got another podcast up. Today, I'm, of course, Mark Frasconi. Who I have with me today is Will Ische. Will, your last name, please pronounce it for me.
Ische.
Ische, yeah. I
Yes.
think someone corrected me, and I've known you for years, and I've been pronouncing it.
A couple of years. Well,
Yeah.
I don't correct anybody ever.
Yeah, no, and you've been so kind and polite about that. So Will's been a friend. My dog burning in the background.
Yeah.
Will's been a friend and around the DFL as long as I've been involved, and I got involved back early in Bernie Sanders' campaign. And I've always appreciated Will's opinion. And he's been a good friend to our group. He showed up for a lot of our functions and participated in a lot of our events. And one thing that I've always enjoyed about Will is he's always got a great opinion about things. And because he is a hardworking guy, he's got actually a lot of great connections inside the party. He's done a lot of things. He's worked for the Obama campaign. And so right now he's currently working with Sandy Mason, trying to get her elected.
That's right.
Yeah. And what I want you to do, Will, just so I'm not stealing all your thunder, I want you to talk a little bit about yourself. This is that one time you get to do that. And,
I know, gosh, I hope to have more times. But yeah, so basically, okay, so I think 12 years ago already is when I got involved. I'm thinking '06 is when I actually started getting active in the party. Went to caucuses, conventions, with my mom before that in '04, I remember particular, but '06 is when I really got into the DFL, then 38, now 51. They actually had an event called DFL Links, and we don't do that anymore, but maybe we should think about doing that because it was geared towards bringing new folks into the fold. This was a meeting just of a couple people, me and I don't know if you know Sky Miles.
No.
Awesome name, but Sky Miles was a very big activist in the party in the local level. But anyway, so she had this meeting at the Panera in Eagan, on the promenade kind of area right by, Smash Burger and all those other places. But so I just walked in and I was the youngest person there, by a few years. And it's easier than people realize to get active in local politics, especially, really it's all just going to a meeting and showing up, and you're going to find yourself sitting next to the candidate or next to the, the legislator from your area in next to no time at all.
Yeah.
So after
bit of courage, that's all you need. Just
totally, that's all it takes.
Yep.
After that, so '07, I interned for Al Franken's campaign. Just that first summer in '07, working out of, I think, it's the Tritech building downtown. So I think he had his radio station there for the last little bit before he switched over to the campaign full time. But, I held the mailbag going to the post office, getting the campaign checks. They had me do that, little old me, right out of high school, do that. But
you've been kind of a trusted person around the party for a long time.
So I hold all the money for Al back in the day.
And your credentials didn't stop there then too. You worked with
So from there, I went to the U of M. Was the president of College Democrats my senior year. But then also interned for our great state senator Jim Carlson in the Senate in 2009. And Jim really had me do everything. I got more duties, I think, than other interns that I knew about anyway. He basically had me craft, responses to constituent, questions and so on. So gave me a lot to do early on, and really trusted me with that. So I was really thankful for that. But
what was your favorite part of that job? That sounded like a pretty
yeah, I
opportunity.
mean, I think just sitting with Jim in his office, and he would really deconstruct all the bills that have been going through the Senate at the time, and if you know Jim, he's got a giant stack of papers and data on his desk. Everything he doesn't make any vote, just because someone else is doing it. He really looks into the info and digs into the numbers. So
there's a lot of time I'm so glad after listening to him talk about the work he's doing. I'm so glad that he's doing it because he's just enough of a nerd to do it well.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And somebody who doesn't have higher ambitions. He just wants to be the best state senator he can be, and he is that, and he's a good role model for everyone in the district, but just other senators too. They want some of that info he's got. He'll pass his papers around.
Yeah.
But,
he's anchored our Senate district for some time now.
Yeah, he has, and we're lucky to have him. So from then on, I interned in the governor's office in 2011 during that shutdown. So that was an interesting time to find yourself answering calls from peoples whose homes were being foreclosed on. I was just out of college, and we're getting some real serious kind of calls. People are very worried that summer the state shut down. And they have college interns or, college graduate interns answering the phones. They're the first people to answer the phone in the governor's office. If you didn't know, that's a little secret. I don't know if it's such a secret, but that's the truth anyway. So,
that's kind of the way it works in every organization.
Yeah,
so you're most vulnerable on your
totally. Yeah. Oh yeah. But I mean, what a good experience too, to have right out of college, get to meet the governor face to face, and he's been good about being accessible to even the interns, at the lowest rung he's seen around the office. So he has a tiny office too in the Capitol. I don't know if you've
really.
He traded out the traditional office to have this basically a closet, and he has 3 staff members where his office would have been had he taken the traditional governor's office, which I found interesting. But
he is a humble man.
Yeah.
No, that's great. So, and then you also worked for Obama?
I definitely did some work for Obama. Yeah, I did a lot of data entry. I was big into the data entry. I could sit there with stacks of sheets all day long and just the most mundane stuff. I just
to me, it's not mundane actually. So, looking at the party, one of the biggest things I would actually talk about changing in the party, would be our data practices. I think we could be better. I think we could be way better at how we share our data, how we use it to target work that we're trying to accomplish. And I know from kind of following what the Tea Party has done and what they're currently doing is that we're behind them technologically. And you and I are both kind of nerds and geeks that way too. Yeah. So I would like to, in calmer times when we don't have the difficulties that we have right now, I'd like to be able to dig into that a little bit more and see if we can't, build a better machine that way.
Totally.
So, well, moving on, and we, and of course, now your current job. Let's actually we should finish with that. What are you doing right now?
Yeah, right now I'm at Amazon, which you might have heard of them. They hit the $1 trillion valuation the other day, which, it's very exciting for the folks at the top with all the stock options and that, but it's not a really good mood to hear that your company's, worth $1 trillion and you're still, scraping together to get by at the bottom. So you see a lot of that. There are people at our building who do live in their car. That's not a uncommon thing. So, we can talk about that for another day, but that's a real thing, So I see that kind of stuff. And this lady that I'm thinking about in particular on my shift, she works overnight, so she doesn't have to sleep in her car overnight. It's usually a little warmer during the day now. So I don't know if she planned it that way, but That's a real issue. You got
So
people at the top making,
billions.
Billions. Jeff made 1.8 overnight, like a week ago.
Yeah.
So, we gotta
That's
talk
another
more
story.
about that.
Well, that's the kind
It's
of story
another
that
day
motivates us.
for,
That's what
yeah,
motivates us for social justice, and
yes,
we hear
yeah.
those types of stories. All right, and so then, well, actually, the other job I was actually referring to was you're managing a campaign.
Yes, managing Sandy Mason's campaign this cycle. So in the past, I've helped out, do field kind of stuff. Obviously, door knocked and phone banked a bunch, but just took it by the helm this year.
Wow. Where do you find time for all this? Now, are you guys getting any like really good indications back from the person? I mean, all the polls and everything are saying we've got some good things ahead of us.
Yeah. No, all the numbers are looking good. We're almost fighting that sense of kind of inevitability. We're
People
trying
might stay home because they think it's a lot.
exactly. Yeah. And that's not. There's no such thing as that. So we really want to, get our name out there in the midst.
Well, I was going to say, I want them to show up to be part of the party. That's kind of the thing.
Totally.
I want them to be part of the wave so that they feel like they were part of something significant. They can say, yes, I was part of the 2/3 of America that showed up en masse to say that enough is enough. This is time to change. And so that's, we got to motivate people. It's like, don't give it a thought about you've got something better to do. There is nothing better to do on November 6th.
That's right. Yeah. And so all of the meetings that we have as Democrats, all those times we, go through the agenda and the minutes and all that, it really doesn't matter if we don't talk to voters. So, that's where the minds are changed, so.
Well, I'm getting the sense that a lot of them are starting to come out. They're waking up, they're getting woke.
Yeah.
And
well,
if they
don't this year, then we're done. Yeah. Really? I mean,
I believe that. And I don't want to be an alarmist, but this next election is just so important.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I wanted to move along because we had a couple of topics we wanted to cover. We've got a few minutes left and so what I wanted to do really was, kind of go over we just finished our primary season. We had some interesting races and we've got some great candidates, and Will's actually got, a pretty good guy to ask about this. And so, maybe a little bit of insight. And the first race I really want to talk to, and is because we've been kind of discussing, actually, before I get going, before I talk about anything, I want to make my Steve Simon plug. So let me just jump in with that. IReb is hosting a town hall with Steve Simon on October 10th. It's about voter security and voter access rights. And, we have some issues in Minnesota. I mean, we're not completely safe. And there's some things, we've been in contact with our sister group in Hawaii, the Hawaii Indivisible group, and we have some things in common with them about modems that are connected to our machine. And so we have some actual issues that we want to find out from the Secretary of State about, like, how vulnerable maybe are we to things that happen. Anyway, the other reason that you're going to want to show up for this, and this is a really kind of an important point, and we're not asking Steve's opponent to show up. We want to help Steve get elected, but the reason why he needs help and why we would really like folks to show up and then ask important questions, but be there to also support him as a Democratic candidate, is that because he is the Secretary of State and because he would have to certify any close elections or any recounts, he cannot, be seen on the campaign trail holding hands with the other Democrats. And so really through the campaign season, our Secretary of State candidates have always had to run on their own, and they need our support. So I would encourage everyone to mark that day on their calendar. Come on out and visit and have a few questions for Steve, and then get involved with his campaign, and maybe he'd write him a check. And speaking of writing a check, also on that night we have locally here in Eagan is going to be we're boring Bernie, he's leaving now. We're going to have a fundraiser for the governor candidate, Tim Walz, and we're going to talk about him in a second. But I would encourage everyone to, because that's earlier than actually our town hall, you could attend both and you could write checks to both. So I just wanted to get that plug in. And then moving back to our conversation. So earlier we were talking about the state Senate race. And right now, in my mind, the most important one is Senate District 13. And actually we were kind of chatting about this beforehand. And, you want to kind of comment a little bit about that, what we're looking at? That's the Michelle Fishbach's.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, that's Michelle Fishbach's I want to be a senator and also the lieutenant governor at the same time kind of seat, if y'all will recall that whole ordeal. Because she's she was a senator, and then now, well, she got lieutenant governor, and that was a whole
Yep.
issue in and of itself. But so that's not a traditional target seat. That's just the facts. And so I think that the reason the seat is in play is because it's a special election, and we can devote our time and resources to this race right now, and because it could decide the majority is why we're spending time thinking about it right now, and it needs to be thought about, because, and I was telling Mark before we started that regardless of where these districts are, their vote counts the same regardless. So
yes, that's true.
Left-leaning Democrats, we're helped out by any vote that's our way, regardless of where they are in the state. So
Right.
Don't get caught up in the fact that, he's not your immediate state senator. He wouldn't be if he got elected. Well, his vote will count for our interests, if he gets elected. So
yeah, every vote we turn out in that Senate district is a vote for our governor and our attorney general and
Yep.
down the line, and all the down tickets races throughout the state, or up tickets actually, races throughout the state will benefit from it. And I'm sharing my screen. Joe Persky's the guy running for that from our side. And I know in Senate District 51, I'd like to give a shout out to our home Senate district for sending off a nice check to Joe's campaign. And I would encourage any other Senate district to help. Let's get democracy built in that area right now. I mean, it's kind of a bit of a long shot. We have to admit that, but with some of the generic balloting, we're seeing that we're seeing a bit of a bump because of the backlash to Trump finally, and this could be closer than what we think. And like Will's saying, every extra vote that we turn out there is just going to help us, and
Right.
It's also going to build democracy locally there, so that maybe in the future we can get more Democratic candidates elected too. So this is a short game and a long game, and we've got a lot of things going on there. So I just it's a great race, and it's kind of awesome to think is we really have a shot at flipping the House this time. I mean, I think we can flip the state House. I know I'm not supposed to say that out loud. Some party person's going to yell at me and say, "Oh, you're going to make people stay home," and again, like we want to make people show up to be part of something, and but this thing, if we could somehow miraculously flip this race, we would gain control of both of our houses back, and we would also likely win the governorship, and we could undo so much of the damage of the past couple of years. We could really set ourselves right again, and I think there's a real appetite for moving in a better direction to people in general speaking. So anyway, getting back to the races, so let's kind of just buzz through them for a few minutes from top to bottom. Governor's race, I started out I liked Paul, and then I liked Tina, and then I ended up in then it was Rebecca, and then Aaron, and so but Aaron, I was real because she had gotten the endorsement. I was real stuck on, and it took me a couple of weeks. It was real kind of hard to let go of her. I loved Aaron. I mean, she's and both Aarons, they're so hopefully they're not done by any stretch. They're
right. Yeah, no, I think I wouldn't be surprised if Aaron Murphy got picked for a commissioner spot, Health and Human Services. I obviously I don't know on an official capacity because I haven't talked to anybody on that level, but I wouldn't be surprised by that, right? And so that's an option if she wants it, and she's offered it and she wants it, but just as someone who has been so influential to so many pieces of legislation, she's going to get asked for advice, I'm sure, every day during session next year by Democrats she served with, but also new ones that got elected since then. And so she'll be active, and we'll see her around, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, so now we've got Tim.
Yeah.
Tim's looking strong. I mean, he's to see him next to Johnson. I mean, you got to feel good about.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't know if you got a chance to hear the NPR debate at the fair, but I think he pretty much wiped the floor with them. So
Yeah. Well, no, I don't remember. Was that the one where he made the comment? Oh, it was great. I can't remember. It was a great comment. I'm sorry, I brought it up. But yeah, he did a good job.
yeah. And so I just have to mention I was on the Tim train the whole way, and I think, and now I have to make the case to everybody, but I always felt like he was the most electable candidate the whole time. And I know we all have different ideas of what's more electable and so on. And that's a conversation that we'll always have, till, the end of time and when we're done doing this. But I always felt that way. And I think I just want to bring up 2010 for a second, because we remember that our current governor didn't get the endorsement, right? He didn't even try for the endorsement. And so I think it was a little different of a situation back then. But it was Tom Emmer on the Republican side and Marty Seifert going for the endorsement. And Emmer obviously ended up winning it. However, and I've told this to people in the past, is that if Marty Seifert had won that Republican endorsement, I think we would have had a Governor Marty Seifert, because Tom Emmer was just a little too far to the right for the state to, and I mean just a little bit, because there was the recount and everything, but I really do. I think we would have had a Republican governor the last 8 years if the Republicans didn't just go a little too far to the right. So we just have to think about that. That electability portion is a really important piece to, getting elected statewide, because that's essentially, obviously the goal in the end is to appeal to the most people and
Yep.
not just Democrats the whole time. And so our message, we talk a lot about turnout, and as Democrats, we know that if we get the most people out to vote, we'll win, because more people agree with us than Republicans. But we also have to focus on actually changing people's minds too. We can't just rely on the people that think like we do to go out to vote. We have to try to change some minds too. And that's what, hopefully this podcast will reach out to folks who might not otherwise participate in politics, but somehow they heard about us. And so, we're talking to those folks as well. But
yes, our hope too.
Yeah.
So, along those lines, actually, it do give me an opportunity to comment about the endorsement process. Being kind of newer, I went through the whole thing. I mean, I was there at every step of the thing. I was a delegate all the way up. I achieved a couple of elected positions within the party, and I really felt like I got a great education about how to do things in the party, and I, kind of come out with a much better taste in my mouth than I had before of how business is done. I think this is a very much a grassroots organization, but you do have to bring some friends if you want to accomplish anything. And so, but the thing I wanted to say about the endorsement process, and I still believe in it, and I don't mean this as a knock on anybody that didn't have the endorsement primary, but I've brought this up with other folks, and I'd like to just kind of get this out there, is that I think it can be fixed. I think it can be improved in a way where we can get better buy-in and we produce a better product. And they kind of will go hand in hand. And, something as simple, and maybe you and I had discussed this on a patio, something as simple as, televising the event and then doing it, maybe, trying to sensationalize it a little bit, but, getting people to buy into the real life drama that goes on and trying to select who's going to be the best candidate going forward. And, we always talk about getting more people involved, and we think in terms of, getting them to show up to meetings and things like that. And we, of course, want them to do that. But getting them involved, just paying attention and caring about things also matters too. And so I think, marketing our product as a body, I think would improve its, viability. And, that's kind of just my thought on it, though.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And, we don't even need to come up with any drama on our own. That
No,
already
but
happens, as you know.
yeah,
That it gets heated at those tables
yeah.
when you're voting.
It's
And
fascinating stuff, and it's your future that you're working on. So
totally,
yeah,
yeah. I
you just have
definitely
to
think
show people the right hook there.
totally, yeah.
Yeah.
And we can work on that in the future, trying to get some, coverage, some better coverage of the happenings around the discussions and the tables and the wheelings and the dealings, right by the delegates. So that's good stuff.
So we've got Tim, and I think he's a good candidate. So why, we've got a few minutes left. Why don't you just kind of run down the race and just say something interesting about each race before we close?
Okay, so
I'll give you a candidate. That's Keith Allison's race.
So okay, well, he's against Doug Wardlow. I think
The most important part,
yeah, he's against Doug Wardlow, and so
Wardlow is homophobic and he's anti-Muslim. And you might as well paint a Nazi symbol on his forehead.
So he was a state representative from Egan for 2 years. So he rode that Republican wave in 2010. And then he lost to Lori Halverson, and then he moved to Arizona. So, and he is who he is. I also just feel weird about him moving from Arizona to here and then running for a statewide office, because there is some level of entitlement that you have to feel to do something like that, and it also just shows that there is a complete lack of a bench on the Republican side for statewide candidates, right? They haven't run anyone serious in almost literally 10 years. So
all right, what about auditor
now?
What about
auditor Julie Blaha? Yep. And so obviously I feel good about that one. I feel good about all of our statewide candidates again. I really think, if our voters get out, that we're gonna, take them all. Really, I think that. So Tina Karin Housley, I think Tina's been running ahead.
Yeah. Do you think the hockey thing's gonna get any traction? She's running on her husband's
fame. Of course she is, and her husband's the coach of the Buffalo Sabres now. And Phil Housley is a somewhat of a household name, at least.
Yeah.
I
know. Yeah. If you've been around hockey,
you've been around hockey long enough, you know who Phil Housley is. Yeah. I think Minnesotans know enough to look past that and not let that sway them too much.
Right.
But
what about the other Senate race?
About the Senate?
She's a megalith. I mean,
there's
no way to stop Amy.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And
I wanted to mention on that one. So we've got Paula is over there trying to create a little bit of of course that's going to be a net noise, and they're kind of think there's just no way to take Amy down, I don't think. No,
there isn't. And so I did some calling for Amy last time she ran, so in 2012. And I was at the office for hours during the week, making calls and inviting people to the caucus, whatever. But then it was the most anticlimactic moment of that election night is when they called the election for her right after it closed. I'm like, well, that's why I made all the calls for, so. But it's a good feeling.
All right. Well, we've reached the end of the half hour, and so we're going to call it quits for here. And so thanks for coming on today, Will. We're looking forward to having you on again more often. I always appreciate your opinions. And so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the closing music and then hit stop record. So thanks everyone for listening, and this is our latest edition. Sweet. Oh, wrong one. Try that again. There we go. I don't know if you can hear this.
I can hear it.